Well, don't we all like to be our own bosses? Don't we all like to call the shots and to have life proceed according to our wishes? But I'm not sure that that's always wise. And I know it doesn't always work. And we have a couple of examples in our scriptures today that indicate that such may not always be the right direction to take, the best direction to take in life. And the reason I say this is because life can get pretty complicated, even overwhelming. Those of you who are adults have run into this more than once. In recent weeks, both in the Sunday liturgy and in the weekday liturgy, we heard again Jesus commending little children and saying that the kingdom of heaven is like for little children. And it's certainly not because little children have all the answers, although they too like to try to think that they do, but rather that they are more dependent, and they recognize that too, more dependent on somebody else. And we adults need somebody with a capital S who is way above us, whom we can call upon for assistance. In our first reading today, we have an example of such a someone who answered the call for deliverance from slavery. The deliverance did not come quickly. That's one of the problems with God. He's got way too much time on his hands, doesn't he? I was a little jealous of Bartimaeus today, who got his sight back immediately, but how many times haven't we all asked for something and waited and waited? Well, the people whom Jeremiah was talking about today had been waiting for 70 years in slavery, in exile. And exile had been the reward that the Israelites got for running so far away from God. God had to get their attention. He had to bring them back. He had to let them know who was in charge here, because the Messiah would one day come out of that race. And now it's time, God decided, to make things right. So we find Jeremiah promising that God would deliver the remnant of that people back home to Jerusalem. The remnant of that people, 70 years, there were not many people who had left Jerusalem to go to Babylon in the first place, who were left alive, of course. But it's all new generations. They had married and they had their own children and grandchildren, and these are the people who would be coming back. Shout for joy, Jeremiah said. Proclaim your praise, because this is going to happen. What we heard would happen did happen. I will gather my people from the ends of the world, along with the blind and the lame, even mothers with child. Why would Jeremiah write that? He wrote that to say that everybody would be coming home. Not just the strong, not just the select. Everybody would be coming home. And he reminded them, your forebears, they departed in tears. We can only imagine the struggle that goes on when people are being led off into exile. We can only imagine. But I will console them, and I will guide them to brooks with water on a level road. In other words, the way back is going to be a whole lot easier for those people. Why? Why? Because I am the Father of Israel. So much better than their having been left alone to solve the problem of getting them back home. Well, they couldn't. People in slavery just can't put that together, or they would have done it before the 70 years were up. So he's encouraging them also to pray. Prayer is so important for keeping us connected to God. And be sure that God will never break the connection with us, but we break the connection ourselves. Every time we become arrogant, every time we sin, every time we stop praying, we break the connection. Does God have to do something harsh to get our attention again? We hope not. Our gospel gives us another example, but a different situation of God help, and that's Jesus with Bartimaeus. It's a wonderful little story, isn't it? But being blind is not wonderful, I'm sure. Being blind makes one surely not too self-sufficient. So perhaps it was easier for Bartimaeus to ask for help than it is for some of us. Some of us think, well, if I can't fix it, nobody can fix it. That was not Bartimaeus. Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. Go your way. Your faith has saved you. Oh, we have a key here. Faith. Faith. Easy to say, sometimes difficult to live, but nonetheless, because we like to have the answers and we like them right now. But faith in God is our calling out and letting God be God. If we live that kind of faith, perhaps, or if we try to live our faith at all, we can be like the fellow who said, I believe, help my unbelief. Our faith doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be our putting ourselves in God's hand. Again, not always easy to do because we can become a little arrogant. But nonetheless, God understands all of that and takes us as we are and welcomes us always into our heart. We always have a place there. May you know the peace of being in God's heart.